Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to the north shore of Skilak Lake on the Kenai Peninsula in Alaska. As we've reported on a few attacks in this area recently, it is a location with a developing conflict between people and bears. The Cook Inlet surges twice a day with millions of gallons of seawater, and in summer it carries with it salmon, among other species, that predators feed upon. The flat sloping forests along the inlet rise to hills and then to mountains within 30 miles of the shores. This increase in elevation amounts to about 1 mile in gain and creates different forest zones and characteristics. The streams and creeks created by this gain allow migrating salmon to procreate and continue their species, as well as many others. The birch, hemlock, and spruce trees are the backdrop of a colorful palette augmented by animals like moose, hares, and squirrels. These animals are pursued by black bears, coyotes, lynx, wolves, and brown bears. At the northeast corner of Skilak Lake, Doroshan Bay opens up to a small valley. The slopes on either side of the bay are forested, but the valley bottom is grassy and swampy. The lake's waters saturate the soil in the valley, creating a damp and muddy environment known as muskeg, just the kind of place that moose like to inhabit. On Tuesday, September 22, 2015, 47-year-old Gregory Matthews was hunting for moose with his brother Roger. They'd spent some time planning this hunt from their homes in Plano, Texas, and had planned to hunt together utilizing a moose call. They practiced calling for moose and helped each other improve their grunts and moans before traveling to Alaska. After boating their way to the north shore of Skilak Lake, the men decided to grunt for moose overlooking the grassy meadow along the valley bottom. If they managed to get a reply from an interested moose, they may be able to see it coming from a few hundred yards away. The requirements for a legal moose harvest in Alaska requires hunters to ensure the width of the bull's antlers as well as the number of brow tines. Shooting one that doesn't meet these requirements can get you into big trouble, even if it isn't a trophy animal. As the hunters spaced themselves out about 40 yards apart from one another, they prepared to grunt for moose. To do this, a tool similar in appearance to a bugle is used as a sound amplification device. A hunter places the smaller end toward their mouth, and the larger end they point in the direction from which they hope moose will answer. The hunter then makes a deep "mwah" sound. It doesn't sound very loud when it's heard, but the antlers of the moose act like a satellite dish, amplifying the sound they receive to their ears. Bull moose can hear each other from a few miles away if the conditions are right. The men set up with Gregory being positioned between his brother and the moose's anticipated approach. Roger would grunt and groan, drawing the moose in his direction and right past his brother's concealed location. This arrangement keeps the lovesick bull's attention on a different place than Gregory's hideout. As Roger grunted and groaned, the sounds of his make-believe moose moans drew the attention of more than the moose in the area. The expectation of a lovesick bull's response was cover for the approach of a predator less lovesick and more hungry. Gregory scanned the brush and hoped to hear the plodding steps and deep grunts of a moose as it approached him. Instead, he witnessed the bushes rustling only 20 yards from him. He watched in horror as a huge sow grizzly and her half-grown cubs stepped out. It was clear to Gregory that the grizzly had come in to find what she thought was a rutting bull moose. She came in expecting to find a prey animal she was accustomed to hunting, and when she fixed her gaze on Gregory, it became clear she had the same intention with him. As the sow slowly stepped toward Gregory, he yelled at her and threw up his hunting rifle. He fired at her, and the bullet struck the grizzly in the jaw, but did nothing to stop her stalk toward him. The sow broke into a quick trot toward Gregory as he tried to work the action on his rifle again. The sow closed in on him so quickly that the only thing he could do was shove the barrel of his gun into her mouth. She shook her head until she dislodged the rifle barrel and proceeded once again toward Gregory. The sow was now within biting range of Gregory, and as she plowed into him, she knocked him to the ground. She wasted no time in latching her canines onto Gregory's head. She drove her teeth through his scalp and into his skull bones. Gregory instinctively raised his left arm above his head to protect his neck from the bear's jaws. As he did this, the sow clamped down on it and gave Gregory a good shake. The sow sunk her teeth deep into the tissues on Gregory's back and lifted him off the ground a few times, slamming him down after each one. Roger, having now heard Gregory yell and the grizzly roar as the attack commenced, came to his brother's aid. He could see the grizzly sow swatting and snapping at his brother. He immediately drew down on the bear's shoulder with his 300 Win Mag. Roger let it rip twice with his hunting rifle and watched as the sow disappeared into the brush before the report from his rifle stopped echoing through the valley. Just for the record, I hunt with a 300 Win Mag, and it is my most preferred hunting rifle for any big game. I've dropped a Shiras moose in Idaho in its tracks from 80 yards with this rifle, and its power brings a humane ending to any game animal's life, even without perfect shot placement sometimes. After the grizzly dashed back into the brush, Roger helped Gregory back to his feet, and with their heads on a swivel, they made their way toward the boat. They didn't have any way to reach out for help and rested along the shore hoping for some kind of intervention. Only a few minutes passed before the sound of a boat motor broke the silence in desperation. As the Matthews brothers eagerly watched a boat rapidly approach their location, they waved their arms and yelled to make sure the boat didn't pass them by. The fishermen pulled near the brothers, and the Matthews boys informed them about the bear attack. The fishermen agreed to try to get cell phone service toward the middle of the lake and sped off. As they reached the middle of Skilak Lake, their call to 911 got through at 6:15 p.m., and a Life Med helicopter was dispatched to pick up the hunters. Gregory was flown to Central Peninsula Hospital in Soldotna for initial treatment of his wounds. He was said to be in good condition the day after the attack. The following day, Roger returned to the location of the bear attack and guided a biologist through what had occurred. They searched the area looking for evidence of what had happened to the bear and carried their firearms at the ready. After searching the perimeter of the attack site, the sow's dead carcass was located. She had made it about 100 yards after being shot by Roger. The authorities then began to consider the location and fate of the cubs. Based on the brothers' description, they decided the cubs were at least 2 years of age. They looked over the sow and could see that she was no longer lactating, meaning that she was no longer nursing them. The cubs had been eating food that she had foraged with them and had learned by now what to eat. After a few more searches for the cubs yielded nothing, the authorities gave up looking for them. The Alaska Department of Fish and Game required that the Matthews brothers complete paperwork describing the circumstances of the attack. They also collected the salvageable parts of the sow's carcass. State biologist Jeff Loringer stated that there was a marked uptick in bear attacks around the refuge in 2015. This channels recent episodes on Danny High and Gabrielle Markle, each happened the same fall as the attack on the Matthews brothers. He indicated that the main reason for this was the fact that more people than ever are accessing remote areas. Before these 3 attacks, all occurring within 7 weeks of one another, it had been nearly 3 years since a brown bear attack on the peninsula. Each of the attacks in 2015 around Skilak Lake and the Kenai River were deemed defensive attacks. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Do you think Gregory would have been killed by this grizzly if his brother hadn't shot her? Did the cubs learn to stay away from humans? Is it the bear's fault when they attack people appearing in areas they've not previously been seen in much? If a big old sow grizzly appeared 20 yards from you, what would you do to ensure your safety? I'll be glad to read and respond to your thoughts, so please post them in the comment section below, and let's talk about it. Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.